Good evening. I'd like to welcome everyone to the June 2015 regular session of the Abingdon, Virginia Town Council. With all due respect and appreciation to everyone who is here tonight, I will note that I think this is the thinnest crowd I've ever seen in a regular session, but we're very pleased to have everyone here tonight, and we thank you for coming and being part of this evening. A couple of things that I will note for the record. First of all, I was going to point out that there was as a normal thing, there is a package of materials we received in preparation of this meeting on the table to my left, and I think for the first time that I can ever recall, there's not any. Is it?
It's his under that red umbrella.
Okay, well then I'm not losing it. I just cannot see. All I can see on that table is a red umbrella. So again, there is a copy of the preparation materials that council receives. Copy of the materials we receive is over there and available if you care to review it. The other thing is that we've had some discussions about the sound system here in the council chambers. We have a long history of trying to make ourselves heard. And if at some point during the course of the evening you can do two things. If you can't hear us, you can raise your hand, or you can feel free to come forward where you can hear what we're doing. But if there is a problem in terms of hearing us, please don't hesitate to let us know that there is an occasion with that. That being said, I'll ask our town clerk and our assistant town manager and municipal Virginia Municipal Clerk Association Clerk of the Year, Ms. Cecile Rosenbaum, if she'll call the roll, please.
Mrs. Deering? Here. Mr. Howard?
Here.
Mr. Humphreys?
Here.
Mrs. Lowe? Here. Mayor Morgan?
Here.
Let the record reflect that all 5 council members are present.
Okay, thank you. It's customary for us to begin our meetings with the Pledge of Allegiance, and I'll call on Mr. Greg Kelly, our town manager, to lead us in the pledge.
Please join me. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Council, we have several sets of minutes for your consideration this evening, and I am going to note that we have the first item is the minutes of April the 6th, 2015, the work session meeting, and there is a corrected version there, and I'm going to separate that out from the others primarily because I wasn't in that meeting, and I'll call for an action on that particular set of minutes, please.
Move that we approve the April 27th special call meeting, April 29th work session meeting, May the 4th work session meeting, and May the 4th regular.
No, I had a correction on the May 4th work session, but I thought he was talking about
approving
the first.
If you, we don't have a second yet on that. How about we have a motion regarding the April 6th work session meeting? Would someone do that?
Is that the one you want?
Yes.
You want there for?
Right.
Okay. So I move that we approve the April 6th work session, corrected version of the work session meeting.
Okay.
Second.
All right. We have a motion to approve the corrected version of the April 6, 2015 work session meeting. Is there any other comment or question about this? I'll ask our clerk to call the roll, please.
Mrs. Deering? Aye. Mr. Howard?
Aye.
Mr. Humphreys?
Aye.
Mrs. Lowe?
Aye.
And Mayor Morgan?
I will abstain because I was not at that meeting. Okay. Then we have the minutes remaining of April the 27th special call meeting, April the 29th the work session meeting, May the 4th the work session meeting, and May the 4th the regular meeting. Are there corrections or additions that need to be noted to any of the minutes that I've listed so far?
I had one correction on the May 4th work session meeting. It states in a minute that I commented on the siren on the south side of Interstate 81. There is no siren on the south side of 81, so just reflect that I was commenting that there needs to be one over there, but there is none over there.
Okay.
It's very simple.
All right. Are there other corrections or additions that need to be noted? Okay, can I hear a motion regarding the approval of these minutes, particularly noting the correction that Mr. Howard has made? No, that was to the May the 4th session?
May the 4th work session.
Work session, okay.
I'll move, Mr. Mayor, that we approve the minutes from April the 27th through May, the special call meeting, the May the 29th work session meeting, the May 4th work session meeting as amended, and the May 4th regular meeting, sir.
Okay, is there a second?
A second.
Okay,
Except that you said May 29th and not April 29th.
all right, well, I believe we're clear on that, we're accepting all of them as presented with the exception of May the 4th work session meeting, and at that point, we've noted a change there. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll ask our clerk to call the roll, please.
Mrs. Jerring?
I will, on the April 27 and April 29 meetings, and abstain. I was not at the May 4th meetings.
Mr. Mayor, then maybe it would be better if I withdraw my motion.
I believe it might be, I hate for life to be this complicated, but I believe you're correct.
I will withdraw my motion if Bob wants to withdraw his second.
Okay. All right, I will entertain a motion regarding the minutes for the April 27th special call meeting and the April 29th work session meeting.
I move that we approve those two sets of minutes as presented.
Okay, thank you. And we have a motion and...
Second.
And a second? Okay. Are you going to abstain on those?
Well, she was...
All right, you were there. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Golly.
Who's on first?
It's usually not this call. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Ms. Rosenbaum, if you will please call the roll.
Mrs. Jerring?
Aye.
Mr. Howard?
Aye.
Mr. Humphries?
Aye.
Mrs. Lowe? Aye. Mayor Morgan?
All right, thank you. I'll entertain a motion regarding the May 4th, 2015 work session meeting and the May 4th, 2015 regular meeting, and I believe Mr. Howard has already noted a correction to May 4th.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I will move that we approve the May 4th, 2015 work session meeting as amended and the May 4th, 2015 regular meeting as presented.
Okay?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the May 4th, 2015 work session meeting minutes as amended and the May 4th, 2015 regular meeting minutes as presented. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll ask our clerk to call the roll, please.
Mrs. Jerring?
I will abstain. I was absent from those meetings.
Mr. Howard?
Aye.
Mr. Humphries?
Aye.
Mrs. Lowe?
Aye.
Mayor Morgan?
Aye. Okay, thank you. All right, hopefully we've gotten through the tough part of the meeting. Mr. Kelly, I'll turn this over to you. It's customary for us to have employee recognitions, and I believe we've got one for tonight.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. We're very pleased and fortunate to have one of our police officers here tonight with us, and we have Officer Matt Duncan, who's one of our patrol officers, and he has been with the town of Abingdon for 10 years, and I can say without hesitation that he's always appeared to be one of the more professional people that you will want to encounter if you have to encounter someone in law enforcement. He's a good guy. So, Matt, I'd like for you to come forward, and I'd like to present you with your 10-year plaque.
Let's have a round of applause. My coat here, Mr. Humphries, looks great on this.
I need to move over.
Okay,
We're all there.
thanks.
Congratulations. Appreciate all you do.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Wait.
Come shake hands with all of us, too.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
You have a hard job, and you seem to do it very well. Thank you for all of your service to the town. Appreciate it.
Although it doesn't look old enough to have 10 years in it.
I didn't think we hired people younger than 18 in this position.
Oh, that's the easy part.
Thank you for coming. We appreciate it very much. We look forward, some of us, to doing this 10 years again. All right. All right. Let's see. At this point in time, make sure I have that on. We have a resolution for our consideration of the, excuse me, I'm getting off track here. We have a second reading of an ordinance, and that's an ordinance of the Council of the Town of Abingdon, Virginia, proposing a budget for the town of Abingdon, and to make appropriation for the current expenses of the town, and to fix a tax rate upon real and personal property, fix all other local tax rates and fees and rates on utility services for the fiscal year that will begin July 1st, 2015, and end on June 30th, 2016. Mr. Kelly, would you care to review this for our consideration, please?
I'd be happy to, Mr. Mayor, members of council. This is the second reading of the ordinance which will fix our budget for 2015-2016. It is a balanced budget as presented, both in the general fund and in the sewer fund. This year's general fund is $15,201,238. That represents a $1.4 million reduction in the budget of the current year. And the sewer fund has a balanced budget of $3,081,463. That budget reflects a $68,000 increase over last year, which is primarily triggered from the replacement of the grit chamber at the wastewater plant that we have in place. I'm very pleased to report that we are not looking to raise any taxes in the upcoming fiscal year or any user rate fees in the upcoming fiscal year. We've been very blessed and fortunate with good revenues from meals and lodging taxes, as well as real and personal property taxes and B-poll taxes. I would point out, just for the record, that some of the higher dollar figures that you will see in the budget relate to capital improvements. One of those is our Urban Pathway Project, which is about $658,000. We have the second and final phase of the Creeper Trail Enhancement Project, which is $459,000. And we have the engineering for the Green Spring Road Realignment Project, which is about $854,000. In addition, we were blessed enough to be able to offer a cost of living increase to our town employees of 3%, which worked out to be about $208,735. And our health insurance increased slightly again this year, 3.4% increase, which represents an increase of $47,905. In order to make this budget balance, we of course had to rely on certain grant funds and revenue sharing funds from other organizations, as well as a transfer from reserves. This year's transfer from reserves is $383,460. We are very hopeful that this will fund everything that we need to get us through the normal operations of the town and those key capital improvement projects. As we've talked in prior work sessions throughout the budgeting process, there may be other needs that arise down the road that we do not have the total cost projections for at this time, that would require perhaps a mid-cycle borrowing. If that were to occur, there would be public hearings on that prior to that taking place. But I'm very pleased with the budget as presented. I would like to compliment Mr. Chuck Banner, our Director of Finance, and our Assistant Town Manager, Cecile Rosenbaum, on their assistance in us arriving at this budget. with all that said, it's my recommendation that the council pass the budget as presented to take effect on July 1, 2015.
Okay. Council, again, this is a second reading. We have approved this budget one time before, but we're required by law to read it twice and to act on it twice. First of all, does anybody have any questions of Mr. Kelly or Mr. Banner regarding the budget that we've looked at and developed for the next fiscal year?
It certainly reflects well on us, I think, as compared to other localities in our area that have had to raise taxes. But kudos to looking at a balanced budget.
Yeah, and I think us means the administration, the council, all the department heads, an inclusive group.
It does that. We've been very fortunate, that it's, as I think we noted the last meeting that we had, the last time I can remember an adjustment in the property taxes was about the time I came on town council, and that was to lower the tax rate from about 32 cents per hundred to 28 cents per hundred. And so we've managed well. I hope we can continue that. That's a hard thing to continue over the millennium, but we've done well to manage it so far and to move the town forward in the process as well. Other comments? Okay. Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion regarding the approval of this matter on the second reading.
I'll make a motion that we approve this on the second reading.
Okay.
Would that be to take effect July 1?
Yes, sir. July 1, 2015.
Okay.
I'll second it.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve this ordinance on the second reading. It will begin on July 1st, 2015, and run through June 30th of 2016. Is there any further comments or questions? Hearing none, I'll ask our clerk to call the roll, please.
Mrs. Deering? Aye. Mr. Howard?
Aye.
Mr. Humphries?
Aye.
Mrs. Lowe? Aye. Mayor Morgan?
Aye, thank you. We have no bids for our consideration this evening. We do have a resolution. It's a resolution of the council of the town of Abingdon, Virginia, approving financing terms for the lease purchase of a trash collection truck. And I see Mr. Banner and Mr. Dew here to talk to us about that proposed resolution.
Got the odd couple here before you. Let you decide which one's Oscar and which one's Felix. Mayor Morgan, members of council.
One of you is even.
We bring before you tonight the request or resolution required to provide financing for the purchase of a trash truck. If you remember, this purchase was approved for this fiscal year 2014-2015 in the budget with the plan to finance it over 5 years or 5 payments. So the total purchase price of the truck is $133,000, and we solicited financing through 3 organizations, BB&T, New People's Bank, and Packer Financial. BB&T had a significantly lower interest rate, 1.8%, to finance it over a 5-year period. So the resolution included in your packet is part of the requirements from BB&T to do this financing. So we're here before you tonight to answer questions and providing information about the purchase as needed. Felix, you got anything else?
The only thing I would add is that the one payment will come out of this fiscal year, so it's really just we'll make one payment before June 30th this year on the 5 years, so we'll have 4 years subsequent after this year.
And so I always ask this question, so do you recommend, is the low bid the best bid?
I do recommend it, that we do go with BB&T for that rate. Is, like I said, significantly lower than the others, so we were pleased to get that rate.
I believe we've had working relationships with them on other
I
financing.
think we have a couple of things that's financed through them, and I contacted them on this matter as well, and they come back on with the best rate that we had.
Okay, and so again, the amount financed would be a total of $133,000, and the interest rate would be 1.8%?
1.9. Oh, no, I'm sorry, you're right, 1.8. I'm sorry, you're right.
Okay, all right.
Is this replacing a current truck?
Yeah, it's replacing the current rear load truck, the truck that we use to pick up trash in the areas that the automated truck can't get to or can't pick up.
What's the expected life of this trash truck?
Well, with how well we maintain it, it's expected to be a long life, hopefully, but the existing one we have now is, I think, 12 to 15 years old. I don't remember right off the top of my head right now, but it does have a long life. Obviously, it doesn't have a lot of mileage, but the miles are stop and go. But that's what I would estimate. We would try to get at least 10 good service years out of it before we start looking otherwise. The most difficult thing we have right now with all of our equipment, especially vehicles, is finding replacement parts. That's becoming more of an issue than ever. It's harder to find replacement parts for any vehicles that are more than 6 or 7 years old now, like it used to be.
Thank you.
Okay. I'll ask our clerk, is it necessary to read this resolution into the record?
It's my opinion that it's not necessary. I think we've covered all of the main points that are dealt with within the resolution.
All right, and if we enact this resolution, it will be included as part of the minutes?
Yes, the full body of the resolution will be incorporated in the next set of minutes.
I have to admit, it's not a terribly exciting resolution in a couple of matters, but the gist of it is that it says that we would borrow the money over the period of 5 years, if I recall correctly. The total amount borrowed would be $133,000, and the annual interest rate would be 1.8%. And that's pretty cheap money. Okay. Any other questions of these gentlemen? Comments? Okay. All right. Counsel, what's your pleasure regarding this matter?
I move that we accept the resolution.
Okay.
Second.
All right. We have a motion that we accept the resolution, and let's see, let me make sure that I'm clear about this. If we accept the resolution, does it specifically authorize our town manager to enter into the appropriate contract?
Yes, and I believe council's already done that anyway.
Okay. All right, very good. All right, we have a motion to accept the resolution. Did we get a second on that?
Yes, that is second.
And a second. Any further questions or comments? Okay, hearing none, I'll ask Ms. Rosenbaum to call the roll, please.
Mrs. During? Aye. Mr. Howard?
Aye.
Mr. Humphries?
Aye.
Mrs. Lowe?
Aye.
And Mayor Morgan?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Could I just point out that in the resolution, Ms. Dewing's name is not...
Yeah, I just noted that,
Okay.
Mrs. Steele.
Okay.
Error on our part. My
Yeah.
apologies.
And was her name left out, not spelled right, or?
We used an old resolution.
Not spelled at all.
Well, all right, we did use the boilerplate there. All right, well, I'm sure it will be corrected before I
It's
sign
a
it.
rare occurrence.
It is, yeah, it truly is. Okay, now that brings us to old business, and we have none noted, and that brings us to matters not on the agenda. Is there anyone present tonight who wishes to address the council on a matter that is not on the agenda? Okay. I don't see anybody wishing to come forward at the present time. I do know the council has a matter that is not on the agenda, and that is specifically related to the crisis, I think is the appropriate word, that we've encountered with the Fields Penthouse located on the corner of Main Street and Cummings that has encountered some very severe structural problems. And I'll call Mr. Johnson to perhaps review this matter with us and perhaps offer a recommendation to council concerning this matter.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. As we discussed in the work session, we have been in contact with Davis Buckley Architects, who we had already contracted with, went through the RFP process and was selected before I began here. And they have been retained to do some architectural and engineering services to give us a report. That report has come in. During that time, they recommended a temporary stabilization and some additional documentation be performed, as well as some drainage corrections be made on the property to go ahead and stabilize the structure before the winter comes. We have received a draft, and I provided you a copy of that contract. The contract basically is to cover all of the design components for stabilization and drainage issue resolution. and administer the bid process for the actual erection of the stabilization mechanism, whether that be scaffolding or some sort of stabilization mechanism. We haven't determined what that will be quite yet. The contract is approximately $91,000 to do that work. The estimate on the construction, which we obviously haven't gotten bids back in, is about $60,000. I think the complete amount would be around $160,000 with contingencies. My recommendation, based on our discussion this evening, would be to appropriate approximately $72,000 in the council contingency for the execution of the contract and allow the town manager to enter into that contract. I'd be happy to answer questions.
A couple that come to mind. One of which is the process that you've outlined here. We've noted we're looking, I think, at about $160,000 or something like that.
That's correct.
That is required to stabilize that. Essentially, we have a property that is owned by the town, and it's in a situation where there is a potential danger of collapse, I think is the appropriate wording for that. And this is a situation that we have encountered with properties owned by the private sector in the historic district, and this is an historic building. It's also in a historic district. And as I understand it, what you're recommending here in noting is that we are really required to hold ourselves to the same standards that we're holding the public to when you encounter a situation where there is a danger like that. And you might just briefly note the process that we have to go through there.
That's correct. If for example, and the question has come up, if it is in this condition, why wouldn't we not entertain the idea of just raising the property and moving on to something different? If we were to entertain that idea, the process would be we'd have to go before the Historic Preservation Review Board, request their permission to do that. The idea is that they would probably tell us no, and then it would have to be appealed to council. So at this time, what we're doing is what we would require anybody else that would live in the district that wanted to go through the same process to do is to entertain all options to salvage the building, take care of it, sell it, and we are going to figure out the next step to do that would be we have a committee that we've put together, including a couple of council members, to try to figure out the next step, the next use, the next future use of the building. We fully expect to engage the public in that discussion as we go forward, but this is something that we would expect anybody that was in this situation in the private sector to do as well.
If I recall correctly, and this would have been before your time, I can think of two episodes where we've had a situation like this. I think one involved the small brick building behind the cave house, and maybe another one, the Highlands Union Bank property. Was that a similar kind of thing where there was on Valley Street?
I'm certainly familiar with the cave house. It's the same mechanism that we would use. Yes, correct.
Okay.
And the guidelines actually stipulate that a property owner would have to put it, before they would raise it, they'd have to put it up for sale and see if anybody else from the public wanted to.
That's absolutely correct. And what you said, the last part there is absolutely correct, that we would put it up for sale or offer it to somebody who would preserve it.
Right.
So it's not as simple as just waiting the time frame and then just tearing it down. So these are things that we would ask anybody to go through, that the code requires folks to go through. And I think it's our ethical obligation to try to maintain this building as best we can until we can make the decision what the next step is.
Okay. Very good. And so again, the recommendation is the council has approximately $72,000 remaining in its contingency allotment for the 2014-15 fiscal year, and the recommendation is we utilize that, and then the potential for other funding through the next fiscal year to cover the balance of the requirement.
That's correct.
Okay. Any questions or comments about this? and I may not have, I may have spoken incorrectly when I mentioned Highlands Union Bank in this matter. I think, the classic example is the property behind the Cave House. So, excuse me for that. I wanted to be, accurate about it. Okay. Is there any other comments or questions? Okay, then I'll entertain a motion regarding this matter.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I would make a motion that we enter into this agreement with Davis Buckley and authorize the town manager to execute any documents making that come to completion.
And would your motion also include the utilization of the balance of the council contingency
Yes,
purposes?
yes, using the using funds from the balance of this year and then coming up with a funding mechanism for next year.
Okay. Any comments, questions? Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to enter into an agreement with Davis Buckley and Associates for the purpose of stabilizing the Fields Pen property, and we would utilize $72,000 more or less. Mr. Kelly, or were you trying to get my attention?
No, I was just saying 72.5 is the actual number, I
All right,
think.
that works.
Like an
$72,000.
auction.
If it costs that much for construction, let's be positive and hope it doesn't cost that much for construction.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, so around here, if you scratch your nose, you've got a bid.
So it will be a competitive bid process.
All right, okay. So we're proposing to enter into an agreement to stabilize the property, utilizing the balance of council contingency funds for this year. And we in turn would feel like we have the funding that we'll find for the next year and allocate as appropriate, and hopefully it won't be as much as the initial estimate. Okay, any further discussion? I'll call on our clerk to call the roll, please.
Mrs. Deering?
Aye.
Mr. Howard?
Aye.
Mr. Humphries?
Aye.
Mrs. Lowe?
Aye.
And Mayor Morgan.
Aye. Okay, and that brings us to appointments to boards and committees, and I know that there may be I understand there's perhaps a desire to go into executive session for the appointments. So I'll come back to that in just a minute here, and I believe that we're also going to have another executive session to deal with the matter we didn't complete while we were in the work session. I'll take council member reports at this point in time. Is there anything we want to note here for the occasion? Mr. Humphries?
Nothing, sir.
Vice Mayor Lowe?
No, sir.
Okay, Mr. Howard?
No, anything.
Ms. Durick?
No, sir.
Okay, I'll just make a quick addition to the cause. I have been meeting with a group of folks trying to look at the possibility of developing the town of Abingdon as a destination for fine quality food and dining, and a place that would be, that being a distinctive aspect of our town's character. It's been an interesting series of meetings that we've had, and there's a couple of general themes that have come up, one of which is that our farmers market is a particularly valuable component of life in our town. It was noted here just very recently that the farmers market was selected by Virginia Living magazine for, I believe, the second time in a row as the #1 farmers market in the state of Virginia. And one of the things that clearly makes it unique and perhaps distinguishes it from other farmers market is that everything that is sold there is produced locally. If it's a food item or a piece of produce, it's grown by the people that sell it. And likewise, if it's a craft item or food item, it's produced by or sold by the people who made it. And apparently that's a very unique distinction. The discussions we've had with the farmers market so far have been, I think, very productive in a couple of ways. Our tourism department, and particularly Mr. Costello, has increased his involvement with the organization, helping them to market themselves both individually as producers and as a market itself, to make the public more aware of what we offer, and to, in turn, perhaps enable the farmers to offer a broader range of products and to tell their stories a little bit better. He's been very helpful to that group in terms of enabling them to be more effective in their marketing effort, and I think it will be yielding some very positive results, and I'm quite appreciative of what he's done. He's also worked very closely as a result of this, increased his relationship with the White's Mill Group, and trying to help them work on developing their ground meal products, meal and grits and so forth, is something that really is unique, and is trying to strengthen the relationship between them and Fairview and the Old Blade Tractor Club. And I think it's a very useful relationship that we've fostered with that so far. I will note that White's Mill is in the process of completing work on their mill race, and the net result is that sometime, hopefully before the summer is over, they will actually have water turning that mill wheel again. And I was out there on Sunday and noted that, the foundations have been poured for the supports of the mill race. I understand the wheel's in good condition. And White's Mill has been for many years, was sort of a cornerstone of our tourism efforts. People came to the Martha Washington, to the Barter Theater, and to White's Mill. And White's Mill has had its struggles over the years, but I think it's about to take a step into the right direction or move back up into another level. And I've certainly been pleased with that, and I do think that the food products that they offer that would be, locally grown meal, as we know in the past, they've had to buy their corn from Kentucky. And, because they couldn't get the product locally and make sure that it was food grade. And this year it's going to be grown on the Fairview property, and I'm just very pleased with what we've accomplished so far. There's also, again, looking at ways to increase the range of agricultural products that we have here, specifically growing foods that are noted for tasting good, as opposed to the kinds of tomatoes you sometimes find in other stores. With that being said, I will keep you posted on the progress, because progress is being made. And does anybody else have any reports, that they wish to make? Mr. Kelly, Ms. Rosenblum? Okay. That brings us again to appointments and to boards and committees, and I'll entertain a motion regarding appointments.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we go into closed session pursuant to 2.2-3711, probably A, isn't it? A1. For the Code of Virginia is amended to discuss the appointment to the Board of Zoning Appeals and a personnel matter relative to a council appointee.
Okay, now before we go into, I'll ask our various attorneys and leaders and so forth, is it appropriate to go into executive session for both of those purposes, or are we required to come out after we deal with one?
Is it the same thing?
I recommend no.
I think you need to come out and go back in.
Okay.
Okay.
Sorry.
So why don't you perhaps reword your motion, and we can go from there.
Okay, let's do the one on the work session agenda, the discussion of personnel matter relative to a council appointee.
Okay. All right, we have a motion that we go into executive section to deal with the matter of for the consideration of a personnel matter relative to a council appointee, and is there a second to that matter?
I'll second.
All right. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll ask our clerk to call the roll, please.
Mrs. During. Aye. Mr. Howard.
Aye.
Mr. Humphries. Mrs. Lowe.
Aye.
Mayor Morgan.
Aye. Okay, we will be coming out. All right, thank you.
Yes, things to look at.
All right, so the general business is okay.
Second time. This one's second time. I went back to the beginning. Yeah. That's the way. allowed scouts next year. You haven't been down to scout office, but have you? I was just down there. Sad. Oh, yeah.
This is
I've heard from bits and pieces of stuff there.
that moral obligation.
Put the old girl back again.
Put the old girl.
Humpty Dumpty. What's that?
I hope you have food with Kathy Fraser. She's nice.
Mm-hmm.
She said that she had lots of
Well, that came about,
architectural review
when they
board
first did that last year.
copies of guidelines.
We were like 2 years ago, when we were on campus, we were on staff.
We have a ton.
Oh, you've already done that?
Yeah.
Oh,
We
okay.
have a crap ton of them
Okay.
from all over the state, including ones that she's written that are not bad.
We just have to pick the ones that work best for us and
Yeah.
Well,
work
one of the
together.
things that she said really thought was interesting was to get away from kids and picking about colors.
So they had enough.
She says that
No, we don't
even say that.
we don't have anything about ours technically.
Peyton is the only one that gets, Peyton vets.
They get real antsy when you, they want to know what color it's going to be. Of course, there's nothing in there that requires you to tell them anything, just say,
Well, obviously,
keep the old
you
girl
know,
looking good.
I think it's okay for them to say.
Oh, girls
So here's-
change
here's the
the
thing.
color of their makeup, I think.
Here's the
Of course,
thing,
you don't want some bright red or
well,
crazy.
I don't know, you might.
here's the thing, Victorian houses were
I would know
extremely
that.
colorful.
You know,
Well, have you seen
painted
the,
like
have
you
you
could
seen the
see.
colors that are gonna go on the?
Have you got, have you been
The old
to
girl
and seen
will look
their
good.
downtown?
Oh, into
It's
the
full of,
tourism office?
The old girl will look.
Well, but what I'm, you know,
I mean,
The old girl needs
you know, they were colorful and like
there's always going to be,
pumpkin orange, you know.
there's always going to be some level of subjectivity.
Because there's taste.
Because that's right, I mean, you're asking somebody for their opinion on something that,
Exactly.
it's tough. Come over here and say, 'cause I'm
Over your
I'm
network?
in my position.
You don't want
Then
to?
I can see, then I can see you, but over here I can see you.
No, I'm excited about the tourism office. I think it will make that difference. Right now, well, now it looks like a big white monster.
No, you still have to.
It just, it needs to be different colors.
And when they built,
It looks like a hodgepodge of stuff.
and when they built that stairwell on it, it looked like it was growing a tumor. That's an honest truth. So when it's painted, it is like, it's sort of a, it's not really army green, but it's a.
Army green?
No, it's not army green,
It's like
it's
a
three colors.
sage green.
Sort of a sagey green and kind of
Burgundy.
a, sort of a brick red and then a beige.
Or like a gold beige.
It's really nice.
Has tones of
Earth
white
tones.
and
Earth
undertones
tones.
of bottle.
Yeah, it's very warm.
Yeah,
It will really stand
And you
out.
will,
you know what, we're gonna get complaints.
we're gonna get complaints.
You know what, honey? Let them come talk to me. Because Susan Howard is available and badass attitude. Because I am so sick of all the complaints that I
We get lots.
We don't get
and
any
lots
complaints.
and
You
lots.
everybody's happy, it's just like utopia.
Somebody asked me today, is this,
They bring it through a bunch of different
I mean,
units.
but during the month, I wrote down things I got calls for. I got a call about the full moon. Moon full, I'm counting bunches acting weird.
Yeah.
I could have told you that because the whole month of May, I said, I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, I haven't been
just
up there
don't know
yet,
what's
but
going
no,
on.
But they called me to ask me that.
But today there's a race.
Moon full?
Well, according to Holly Mallory and Donna Marie Emmert, Mercury is in retrograde. And that's,
How about all things great? People are crazy.
I've done it.
God is
yeah,
good.
did you see Caitlin?
God is great.
I've been like 4 different camps in there. Oh, yeah, it's actually.
What's she do? No, does she look like Bruce?
Oh, honey.
Miss
Have you not seen
No,
him?
Caitlin, isn't that the daughter?
No, that's his new name.
That's Caitlin.
Caitlin,
I got Bob goes up to box all the time.
wait, you haven't seen this
No,
picture?
he's not.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah,
oh
they
my gosh.
got-
I thought I was gonna puke.
I have not
Honey,
You ain't
seen
dating, don't you?
honey, that is,
You gonna go?
no, let me tell you,
I'll get 'em.
that is some serious makeup.
Is that part of the box club?
Yeah, part of it.
Supposedly, he still likes women, I don't get it, I just don't get it at all.
He can't be.
You gotta familiarize yourself
How long
with
you been scout?
transgender.
Oh, gosh, how long?
Well, I'm
Has he
happy.
had the surgery?
Let me take it to a
He's
bar.
got boobs in his
That's
pictures.
fair, that's fair, I got married.
They did to get them.
This is like 40 years.
That's
I
Photoshop.
had 5 years as a.
Photoshop, and honey, there's not a wrinkle on that body, so you know.
2 cubs and 2.
There's some major Photoshop going on.
Correct.
I was just a, first class scout.
Yeah, but, I can't remember where it was shared on here. but I
And
found it.
Christopher, started in 1999.
I don't care what y'all wanna do. You gotta do what you wanna do. I just don't think you need
And
that.
then I went through.
What?
I don't think that's news.
What?
I was a tiger cut.
I don't mind, y'all can do whatever you wanna do. I'm
Lost
just-
the cubmaster, and so I
Newsworthy.
picked up cubmaster.
Who cares?
That's what I'm saying.
Half of what we
I
see
am
on
too
the
old for that.
I had to top that. And, had
But-
to.
Oh, lights are on.
And unfortunately.
I said-
it's good in the fact that
Let the record
they
reflect.
were organized and they were well put together.
Somebody's reading their lip.
Respected
You
by
know
the parents and the kids.
I'm not close enough to
But
wipe
too
through
old
it.
for that.
And
He's turning
what we
way
didn't
out, you can hear
realize
him.
was
You can hear him. I got up there and
they
figured,
weren't
oh,
good
that's
when they
saying
called
stuff
what to
tonight.
do. They didn't do.
I hadn't seen this one yet. Oh,
Oh,
my word. Honey, man's been going through something.
So as fathers, they were awesome. As leaders, they failed. And I had a leader, and I had 2 of them. I could, put a cutmaster and assistant cutmaster there.
There's one.
And because they were my assistant cutmasters, 2 of them, while they were still leaders and doing other things. And so,
No, I haven't seen that one. She looks
neither
pretty
one
good.
could step up.
I gave that the girl faceless.
The cover photo is what I wanted you to see, in the bathing suit.
Is that what it was? I thought it was lingerie.
Oh, lingerie, no, you're right, it is lingerie. It is lingerie. Not a bathing suit.
I'm gonna go down with me on Friday.
It is national issues. And there's, look at that one.
That's hot right there.
I'm gonna take a while to get, how about you?
There it is.
Trying to do stuff to go back.
No, I like to read them though.
And then Earl
I do.
stepped
Doesn't
up.
read anything. Blue, now that's hot right there.
He took the lead on it.
There you
So
go.
we're bringing kids back, a lot of kids back.
It just,
It's a hot summer. It's a
kind
hot
of makes me,
summer.
it kind of makes me sort of sick.
Of course, we went up and.
I bet Tony and Floyd.
I already showed it to Tony.
Yes, oh, the Shane dogs?
No,
Did stuff, what he looked at.
Oh, yeah, that's disgusting. That makes me want to throw up.
They're coming out, I'm going back for that.
Oh, they're going to, they can go, they can go in the
Mike's
session.
on that.
One thing at a time.
They can go in the session.
Yeah, the city was gonna be up there. It was,
An appointment by council.
it was so unfortunate because the way that.
So what?
To what?
How about-
This is an appointee.
They can go into closed session.
It's 2.2.
It's not a person, they're not personnel,
They're appointees. 237, 11.
I can't 100% confirm. I said it's not safe, you may not know.
I didn't know that they could do that.
Oh, yes, they can.
no, I did check in the dog show, that was really scary.
What?
Have you ever seen on Facebook, the dog show, where people have a picture, they'll show their dog, and they have a little sign beside it, and say what it did? You ever seen that?
No.
You never seen the dog show? It's so cute.
We're on the
You're on the beach somewhere.
I'm not. I'm in Washington State, I think.
Well, that's the ocean. You're a big ship.
Where?
There's a lot of stuff coming on my Facebook page.
Mine, I could move around quicker.
That's the ocean.
I believe you're right.
The way you're in the
That
sound or
cost us,
something like that.
they moved one of the things.
Is it a little?
To open weekend. So I'm glad.
Is this where you want to go?
No, she's sort of lost it.
It's going to be a good tradition.
Where's your want to go?
We'll turn it up.
I was
I think he's Carl's
looking at it.
playing on ESPN.
Then I went to Washington. We want to go to Abingdon, Virginia, Abington, Pennsylvania, Abingdon, Maryland, Abington, Maine, Abingdon, United Kingdom. That's where I want to go. You know what? We go. Going across the water. Here we go. Isn't that a big walk? Look at that.
Yeah, when they say you're
Abingdon, England. There.
In fact,
I love it.
I mean, he lives there.
Yeah,
He's
but
raised to be in
I would not, I've been reading all these wonderful books for 7
I know he has coffee, and I know he has coffee and stretch it, and we're good friends. Okay.
Do you watch any of that?
It's not as bad.
Introducing people?
It's not as bad.
He's gonna do his,
About 6 seasons.
their struggles, their struggles.
This London surgeon who developed a phobia of blood, so he has surgery, he has some sort of village called Port Wing to become just a GP, and he's just real, he's like, if you ever used to watch the show House, he does, it's sort of like detective medical case, but he's just a selfish, rude and hateful to everybody. It's good.
I want to see the town hall. That's where we came to you on the iPad.
That was
Right there, isn't it?
the plum cave. Here's a lot.
That was a man's statue.
That's a lot of plum cave. I can-
All right, man.
She needs a home.
Oh, she's so beautiful.
He's a big, he must
They got
be
interesting campus sometimes.
uh,
They got electric.
Look at that heart.
somebody was found between Abingdon and Laurel Valley. No chip, no collar, and she's saved. And children different to the cat. She come in the house.
Indifferent to the cat, she will eat any problem.
No, she's a sweetheart. Guaranteed. How old is she?
Look at the cricket field set up in Abingdon.
Well, he's like
Let's have another test.
So I hear about 6 o'clock in the morning.
She's still stretching.
It would only go on for 14 days. She's like, what?
She looks tired.
Yeah, you're
I'm going to the television, I can't move because they might knock down a wicket. I think I said, how that'll be
I think I'll have something we can end up candy.
another, yeah, the people.
Vince,
We're not gonna.
I fancy it. I fancy it.
I declare.
Things are just stretching.
I don't know if they put their crack on that, so that's why I came.
Did John do out of the office
He
tomorrow?
had a little light on
It's just
and flash like I couldn't see.
I see y'all, I got a
So I
trash
heard
truck.
they went through this crack, I could see that, and I
Got the trash truck through, there you go.
I said, I can't get up to the floor, so you can go ahead and do it. I can't see, I've got these lights. So,
Oh, you're looking at having it in England.
Yes, I am
John drove
coming
around
to
there and we could reach it
I
together.
can drive Jennifer's vehicle for the rest of the week. I feel like I'm
Look at
driving.
these
What's the
rows
problem?
of houses. It's an old mark, 1500s. And they're wonderful. And they're cold.
Well, we got
Cold porridge.
And have a biscuit. Come in and have a biscuit.
Oh, I've learned so many different, I now can think of words from just watching Doc Martin.
Oh, I think this is just wretched.
Amy Lynn said every time someone
You know what a jumper is?
says Appalachian.
Jumper is a sweater.
Yeah.
Appalachia makes me want to kill.
Listen, every time someone
That's
says
what-
Appalachian, a kitten dies.
If you got that video of that woman, that's what she basically says, is it's like a threat when people say it.
It's Appalachia. You have to sit yourself with an apple in your fist. The throat is Appalachia.
She looked like she was throwing deep behind her. They could be
Picture of the dog shade, because it's just so darn fun. You know, when you move to Val Street, you gotta get a dog.
That's so cool. I got some,
Don't you?
somebody.
I'm just kidding. Move to Val Street, you gotta get
Kitty,
a dog.
your niece
I'm gonna
Kitty.
get a
come
pit
to
bull.
visit.
Is there a
Did you just see
vicious
that
dog
beautiful
over there?
one that,
You don't know what they're
Honey,
No.
and you talk to Floyd, there's states, they are sweet.
There is a state law that sets out vicious, vicious animals. And sometimes they fit right
Bill
in.
Purser, have you seen his dog?
No.
Bloodhound, Roscoe? You see him walking every once in a while.
Who is it?
Bill Purser?
Right, I read it.
And I was like, hey, you're a pet. I don't get near this dog. This dog's crazy.
We have some council.
I am the one with the crazy dog, Deb can tell you that.
Well, I have a kitty.
It's almost
The kitten,
big.
well, the kitten is about 30 pounds and she's
Our church is already.
15 years old and she loves her
And
mother.
they're
That's
white.
your kid?
Very
She's a
nice.
cute dog.
My turbulence is
We're out, we're going back in.
Kitty is her daddy's girl actually, because daddy takes her on rides.
Sean Boston posted this picture of the municipal water line.
Because.
It's not ours, isn't that great?
Who cares? Municipal water line?
If
That's what your drinking water comes through?
It is where it is gone.
Isn't that gross?
Yeah. that's fine.
Oh, look at his little fingers all
Oh,
spread.
There's a-
Oh.
Let's see.
What's her name?
There's the other one. He's curled up.
Oh, you have two? I thought you
Yeah.
just had one.
That's Dolce.
They're leches.
Dolce de leche. And
This is the
this
leche?
is Smoky.
Smoking.
Dulce.
Smoking. Oh, that's pretty.
Oh, this is where I'm staying now. This is the chateau.
Oh, in that little house that he built? Oh.
Oh, here, you use it.
It's not concrete, it's aluminum. And aluminium.
The shower curtain was too long, so I fixed it.
There's one bedroom.
And you got to see the rest of them. They're so cute.
That is a nice little decorative.
Oh, well, that's Rick, that's Rick. That's after I cleaned it up. I cleaned it up.
That's Rick's place.
Yeah, that's exactly.
This one says, I've eaten so many letters, I can do I love this one.
No, basically.
I sneak under the fence and I'm on it.
Old Brooks going again.
You gotta look up dog shaming something. You'll see all
What is
this.
that?
What
is that?
That's Rich Valley and Poor Valley.
Seems like somebody redeveloped a new.
Were you flying?
You were flying?
I was flying, I was fine. Whoa, wait a minute.
Were you piloting?
I was not, no.
He flies, you know.
Oh, no, see, there's a rooster shame.
What is that?
There's rooster shaming.
Slacker. Oh, that's pretty cute.
You like that?
Print thing.
You want that?
Chicken wall.
You want that?
I do.
I'll send that.
Said, you mean the
Chicken wall.
I said, no, it's cheap.
Some people say they won't be back on the shed.
He's gonna get you confused.
I
no
guess
matter
there's
what.
one keep it down, but that's farther down. Most people up here. At least it's 7. She goes.
What they did was when they moved it up here,
Yeah.
the people from.
Not one of my friends showed
That's
that,
what
and
the
I wanted to
house
say,
is
you know what, I'm
like.
really tired of all that crap. It's time to stop blaming the previous
Rain down.
He said,
drove over, so we'll drive back. Rescheduled tomorrow.
I'll tell you what,
You know, and we got plenty.
I don't think anybody, somebody's going to take the blame. We're trying to pass the buck.
I live on.
Yeah.
Well, now, I agree with
Here,
you,
go like-
that he did get a mess, but boy, he sure has to make
Move
it.
out where,
Yeah, they were even gonna have to play the interstate room for both of them on the same.
Created someone too.
And I
I have
live
no opinion on that.
I'm not like any
I
other.
don't
on this side.
There's enough politics
And neighbors
here.
that live on this
I don't do
side.
anything to state or
So I
federal.
mean, I.
But you know what, when I went from the politics.
Go all the way and drive back, okay.
Walked in the neighbor's yard.
It's no way you can tell.
Across the street, up to the landlord, he was right there.
We just had a shark service, I'm so excited.
But.
Huh?
No, it's always work.
County yours, but they don't
They
run,
don't say it, but.
they don't run on the
He said, 45 minutes right.
No, we
got an hour.
pretty much figured it
Yeah.
out.
If they remain in the spring, that's one of the reasons why I really supported our staying. They're not, they're much less likely to be part of it than if they run in the fall. Because when you drive by somebody's house, you can see
This is the
three Democrats
Which was the one
and two or three local, chances are that's going to be Democrats. That's
Yeah,
the
it's
way
not that
it
was
is.
pretty wild. I mean, it was
But
like
they don't,
2 years.
they
It
can't
went all
fill it
over
out, they
everything.
don't fill it.
My brother-
They tagged her up there off
It
Rhode
just
Island,
implies.
and you can see that's where she's gone.
When we spoke.
And
He said,
the cool thing for us, I started following her last year, we went to the beach, we always go to Edison.
That's,
And
that's my,
and it's funny, because when we went kayaking,
Tracy is
we
Lord.
went to the harbor, and the guy was, we had to break one charge in the harbor. And him, and we were.
Yeah, I was.
And she said,
I think I tell you what,
We use our.
I don't know what bothers
and he told us on the kayak,
That's
trip,
probably-
he goes, if you,
and that's
he
good.
goes to get the
That's
back,
very
or
good.
those
Yeah, I should
research,
probably tell you that.
you can download the app.
I know that.
Anytime one of the tank sharks
Yeah.
pops up, you'll get an alert.
But that's really,
I won't tell.
no, I don't need to know.
I
But
don't
that's,
care. Doesn't matter.
that is, speaks well of him. You shouldn't be able to.
And I went down around.
But I know,
If we go
I'm not
back.
sure what James is.
What would you say? That's a long way.
Okay.
He lives down there.
I have no guess.
Okay.
I would say you're a, you vote both ways.
Yeah,
That's what you, that's what I
So
I do.
No, I didn't used to be that way, but that's where I am now.
Me too. And I think that is a huge sweeping trend. If you're true to yourself, we can't vote partisan.
I can't stand that partisan person.
That's
why I work, that's why I stalemate.
The sheriff
It's all
in Gilbert
stalemate.
County, and he's Republican, he said, here's the thing, if anybody goes in and goes straight to
My daughter's down in Kingsport.
they're not
Do
choosing.
you not know how many people
This guy
that,
didn't know
people that I would
Jim
have,
mouth.
ordinarily say I have nothing but respect for, will do that.
It's cool.
That's your choice.
But they're not used to it, right?
I don't enjoy media telling me
She's
how to
a
vote.
nurse, and my grandson, the one, the great white shark, my son has a green card. She's got a twin. Yeah, he's the way she went to
It's Chris.
Well, two of y'all were,
That's Jared, Chad.
when y'all were, you'll go.
I'll drink beer all day long.
Got some work one.
Up in Plainwell.
You can drink all 4 hours.
Where is this?
Thursday night beer garden.
This Thursday?
No,
Oh, any Thursday? I mean, yeah.
I do need somebody.
I got.
This Thursday night?
I'm working.
I may be going back.
Oh, the Coopers real well.
It's starting to get
I was
like
thinking,
churches.
your son had Chris. So, and I'm thinking, I had the Cooper, I was looking at the Cooper kids, and then I was thinking.
We'll do it sometime, you know, I just thought you
Well, I told you.
He could.
Did you all see
Oh,
him?
gosh, you couldn't hold it back.
No.
Yeah,
Don't
yeah,
do that.
yeah.
You
I was
send
thinking, I
somebody,
need to.
staff person or council person or
I think-
something.
I think-
In Hillsville, lost his job because he
He
went
works
to
at,
Google. Well, so I understand that people have ethical.
Oh, okay.
Chris is. And,
That's kind of
and
sacrilege.
then you got, Skyler, they're all Texas.
Yeah, I knew they were all.
What?
And so is his sister, and she's out in Utah.
Superstar.
It was funny.
And Jason's
Remember that music?
Did you get scared away from our churches after visiting with them?
No, I get here the morning, when I'm in
Is it
town.
traditional or the contemporary?
No, the 8:45.
Yeah,
They just put this on.
okay, they
They were
were,
here just,
But there's 8:45.
okay, I didn't
Oh,
realize.
no, I'm sorry,
He's lost a lot of
the
weight.
traditional.
She's in one. He looks.
It's just that
We have
when I'm in town,
I
I sit there with, behind, I sit in between.
You know, elderly people are the majority in church.
That's our little friend's name.
After you watch the
Dreamer.
We sat.
Well, some friends will-
30 minutes later, we might throw a catch.
Patty,
Then they'll throw it back to the vegetable.
Oh, Dreamer,
Scratch yourself.
Gronk.
Really?
Yeah.
And then you go down and sit here and see right on first.
At the Methodist church, we're all, his mother, Dreamer. The Gronks are not.
His mother. Dr. Frost, Dr. Frost, Green.
I don't ever go in there. I've never seen
This is fast, actually, and it's quite good. It was exciting.
So you go to the Methodist church?
It's not too bad.
I thought you went to a different church.
I think it's just amazing.
I'm married,
Yeah,
oh, that's right.
all kinds of.
I ain't united in
It
this.
wasn't totally by choice.
Well, I'll tell you
It's
what,
okay.
I am, those are that I'm real carried away.
Baseball, so
Somewhere else, that we have
So they don't have those issues?
Yeah, that'd be pretty
go
rough.
straight on,
I'm
they
a
could have
real
more shows
fine
to get done.
singer.
We went there and ate food.
Not.
Neither am I, so I just kind of sit there and
We had joint service Sunday. They do that every.
That's the sad part.
so they have like 100 people.
No, it's a pretty good crowd.
Could it be
We have nothing.
they act, how fast do they finish?
2 kids.
There's not many with 8:45 service.
All,
World Championship.
you know, our church is.
Oh, okay. That's right.
So they're, you know, and so.
Trustee.
Yeah, that's.
Our things at Washington Chapel, you ready for
It's actually the
them?
last time to react to
We call it.
What's your register?
Like,
Larry was having
Yeah,
a
I've run from there.
Those two churches.
43 feet at the time.
He said, well,
It's about
He pretty much wanted to stay.
38, 39.
And then we either have to go.
Play against Flip. I didn't play against high school.
Which is a
The
really
King is cold.
nice. You want to go to a really nice
Yeah,
place.
he pitched with second base.
Who's Bridgewater?
Catcher, first base.
Well, Flint is.
No, that's
Twice
not,
what?
that's not what I'm talking about.
Who's Bridgewater?
No,
That's what it is.
See it coming.
They're talking about it when it's in personnel.
Oh, there's another one.
They haven't got to these.
No, they're coming today.
They did come
It was
out.
there.
something.
And he was that far, it looked, it'd be coming right.
They won't talk about what they said when they come out.
It was all around.
I mean, it was almost embarrassing. If it was just you, it'd be embarrassing, but since it was everybody, it was like, well, to get up there and see how bad it was.
That would be nice. Yes.
They probably don't find me.
That's not good.
In baseball.
They'd be able to find a replacement, no problem, but nobody would
Oh,
understand.
Yeah, that sounds all the way up on it.
And he's helped on the council and does.
Upstairs matters.
But, we went down
Oh,
and our deal was.
I don't know, unless it's the tourism.
I know it's all
It was like,
mostly, I like this
he gave Rick Dawson, you want what you want?
No wonder it's not paying for it.
No, I don't think for anybody's fighting.
Floyd, rescue me.
Take your handles now and open up page 362. 362.
Sing some hymns?
First, second, and
Are
fourth.
you saying well? Sing
Yes, that's
anyway.
relative.
Sing anyway.
Everything is relative.
Well, I've heard your Barbara Streisand didn't get rave reviews, but that's only one
Oh, so
person.
I
that's what
sing
you're
well when I
Barbara.
want to. I don't sing well when
Your
I'm
Barbara Streisand.
irritating John Dick.
Don't start. How about that?
Oh, yeah.
So Logan's
Tell me you do it.
$14.99.
That's
I listen to a lot of different types of
We want to hear something out of this.
Favorites?
Yeah, I
jazz.
went, yeah,
Jazz?
first time I went to that, we went,
Just the 89
3
ones.
weeks, 3 weeks.
I like contemporary Christian music.
We did shoot
I like all.
There's not opera and probably the real names of bluegrass is about the only stuff I can't find.
Yeah, we had 2 years.
But y'all, yeah.
You made my heart
Have you heard
sad.
Stephen Tyler's recovery song?
This Major League?
You made everything.
Major League?
Stephen Tyler has a country song.
She was saying.
I heard it on the radio coming out because I was
That's right.
listening.
I wish y'all would act like that.
I don't know for sure. What?
Bob is, of course, you know what Bob likes.
He likes exactly what I
And then
like.
on staff.
Well, Honey Beach music. If I have to
Bob
follow
Lynch.
one,
Bob had that.
no, he does not. He does not have enough rhythm to do it. Don't you tell him I said that because he thinks he does.
Mom, you said white?
I had a
Stephen
student
doesn't have
exactly.
the right kind of rhythm to do it, and bless his heart.
I had a student exactly. It was an 8th grader. Her name was Jolene. Jolene said.
Jolene.
Jolene said, Miss Dan,
Hey, deliver some.
we You can't name five.
How many can?
You better.
Close to years.
You won't mix fun, you have. I'll show you, you have,
No,
girl.
that like this year.
It didn't work.
She's really not like. Most of them had six.
I might not be.
Okay, so there was 30.
She's on mine now. Yeah.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Good.
Beach music and oldies. Me too.
Yeah. It's like everything's on hold.
I guarantee you,
I got planning to move next year.
I love this group, and they were not very,
guarantee it.
check it out.
I don't think I'm gonna go.
They like to come
But I
out,
had
I'll play some more
a
music.
grandfather who was one heck of a philanderer.
How's that? You been up there?
This is
Yes. Or is it?
I always, my dad would always tell me.
They're costly.
His first, my
We
grandfather,
was up there for,
he died when I was 8, 6 months old, so I never knew.
This year's campaign.
we could.
Everybody had a nickname. But anyway,
You know, we had,
had, the first woman I was with was a common law wife, that I think meant she'll have.
we had 10. No, we had 11.
Did they have children?
Talking about the two forms.
Well, she had, the common law wife had children before she got together with him. And when, well,
I've never done
married
anything.
one of her daughters.
None of that
The broken bones. Nightfall and.
On the camera back there.
I'll ask it on anyway, so there you go. Okay, council, I'll entertain a motion that we go back into regular session.
So moved.
All right.
Second.
All right, we have a motion second to go back into regular session. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. I note for the record that it was unanimous. We were in executive session for consideration of a council matter regarding a council appointee. First of all, I would ask for everyone if our clerk would read the appropriate certification.
Whereas the council of the town of Abingdon has convened in a closed meeting on this date pursuant to an affirmative recorded vote and in accordance with the provisions set forth in the Virginia Freedom of Information Act. And whereas Section 2.23712D of the Code of Virginia, 1950 as amended, requires a certification by the town council that such closed meeting was conducted in conformity with Virginia law. And now therefore be it resolved that the council of the town of Abingdon, Virginia hereby certifies that to the best of each member's knowledge, only public business matters lawfully exempted from an open meeting requirement by Virginia law were discussed in closed meeting to which this certification resolution applies, and only such public business matters as were identified in the motion convening the closed meeting were heard, discussed, or considered by the town council. If you agree, please respond with "I so certify."
Feel free to start. Ms.
I
Goring.
so certify.
Also certified.
I so certify.
Also certified.
And I'll certify as well. Okay, we've all certified. Does someone wish to make a motion regarding the matter that we discussed in executive session?
Sure, I will, Mr. Mayor. I move that as of July 1, we appoint Cecile Rosenbaum as Assistant Town Manager and alleviate the interim title, and she will remain the clerk for the time being,
To retain the title.
retain the title of clerk.
Okay, and would you recommend a salary for that position?
As,
Excuse me, Mr. Kelly, am I correct in noting that we should or should not note the,
Yes, council needs to fix the salary.
all right?
and that we, upon recommendation of Mr. Kelly, fix the salary at $80,000.
Okay. All right, we have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. We have a motion and a second to appoint Ms. Cecile Rosenbaum, who has been serving as interim assistant town manager as well as town clerk for the town of Abingdon, to the position of town manager, retaining the title of clerk as well as becoming the official assistant town manager. That appointment would be effective July 1st. Was that part of your motion?
Yes.
Okay. And the salary for that position would be $80,000 a year. Is there any questions, any comments regarding this matter? Okay. Well, I'll ask our clerk to call the roll, please.
It's a little weird. Mrs. Jury? Aye. Mr. Howard?
Aye.
Mr. Humphries?
Aye.
Mrs. Lowe? Aye. Mayor Morgan?
Aye. Thank you. Okay, there is another matter on the agenda for, let's have a little applause. Thank you for the prompt. It's getting to be an evening, but we do appreciate the services that you have rendered so far as our town clerk and assistant town manager. You have been actively involved in learning the ropes as well as providing the service. We appreciate that very much, and we look forward to your continued service and contribution to the town, and hopefully this will be a good move for you and the town, and I'm confident that it will be. That being said, we have another appointment that was on the agenda tonight for the Board of Zoning Appeals. I'll entertain a motion regarding that matter.
I don't have my, what?
Did we want to note about the deputy position?
Well, I think I would ask our assistant town manager, effective July 1, to perhaps comment about what would be the plan for giving her some assistance in that department.
Well, as much as I love sitting up here and looking at all of you all, I would love to see somebody else sit up here in the next several months and do the same thing. So I think the plan that we've discussed is for me to retain the title of clerk, but to advertise for the position of deputy clerk. And so we plan to do that hopefully within the next few weeks to do this as quickly as we can and give the public and anyone else who's already on staff, maybe with the town that might be interested in the position, a chance to apply. And then whoever is selected will hit the ground running and start developing relationships with the council members and the staff and learn what being a clerk is all about. And then if this person turns out to be a satisfactory position for clerk, you all would be ready to appoint them as one of your appointees at the regular July organizational meeting in 2016.
All right, very good. Any other questions, comments? Okay, thank you. Now, as I noted earlier, there was also on our agenda was the appointment to the Board of Zoning Appeals. Council, what's your request or your thought about this matter? Do you wish to go into executive session for the discussion of that matter?
Yeah, your code section is 2.2-3711A1.
32. So I move we go into executive session pursuant to Virginia Code 2.2-3711A1 for discussion of
Appointment to the
Board of Zoning Appeals.
All right. Okay, thank you.
Do we need a second?
Excuse me, we do need to vote on that. We have a motion and a second. We do have a second now.
I'll second.
All right, we have a second to go into executive session. I'll ask our clerk and interim assistant town manager to call the roll, please.
Mrs. Jury?
Aye.
Mr. Howard?
Aye.
Mr. Humphries?
Aye.
Mrs. Lowe?
Aye.
Mayor Morgan?
All right. Okay, thank you.
Bottle washer.
What you got here?
Susan said yes.
Be right back. Brief sabbatical here. We'll be back. Well,
I gotta go home and take like free time off.
She was working. And then she came to work.
Guys, one more.
She should be. It'll be advertised tonight. I'll tell you what, you know. She's one of them. Well, between Charles
Sucks.
and,
The best.
you know, the three of us,
There's nothing more
double
that's on here
clutching,
than
I'll tell you that.
it's like every time I look at it.
It's every weekend.
Mine's a 5.
I got a 5S and it's second battery lately.
See,
It's
that's
gotta be,
gotta
it's gotta be out or something.
Well, there's the
changed
sis cars,
because-
there's F cars.
I turn everything off in the background.
Here, but most of the time, it's
they
all
did
three.
the
I
sixes.
had to come yesterday.
See, the 5, I think my 5 started, I mean, I can get half a day out of it. Yeah.
You can really, you can start to work and accomplish something.
I don't really have some, it's so fun, it's like,
Yeah,
and I've had this for a long time.
And then somebody goes,
Start
hey,
getting-
what about
get started getting issues, you can tell,
But you
well,
can't figure out where you're training from.
After you had it 2 years.
I had a good idea.
Yeah.
No, you did
Plus,
a
I'm,
good job.
I've
but I
had mine
really
for 2 years, it's a 5S.
I'll continue.
Of day 1.7 of that.
yeah, I'll beat this up, I mean, but it's
Because
just.
it's always better, it's always better to go get the half year, never go get the first time out. You always go, 'cause I'm on that, I always get the S's.
The other things we have going
Yeah, I've
on,
had the S's
I just don't know
3
where
years.
the time can come from to
But,
sit down and rewrite.
they
the
usually
entire
kind of last about 2 years after that. The connectors start working, like power connectors start working.
You know, I like the lighting thing, the lighting thing's
Yeah.
better, but that's where I start realizing about this.
I mean,
Well, all I
last
can
year
say
has
is
been a nightmare.
We're glad that you're here because very glad, because it's a certain person before you can do your job. You wouldn't be where you are.
I didn't realize,
Sorry for saying
I didn't realize that it was like that in shape. I
And all of a
didn't
sudden,
really cognizant.
it's not authorized.
Oh, no, and I'm not saying that he threw himself.
Well, I
He threw himself out
But
there,
you have to plug
I know, but I'm saying.
Now, I wish they had, remember they said those chargers that you can lay your phone down on?
I
You
did.
can charge your phone down, and I thought, man, that's the way to do it, they can plug that in, you don't worry about that.
You don't have to tell me.
Yeah, I tried all of this. I got one of those, yeah, put up my first house.
And even I, as an
This is,
outsider.
I just took it, it just,
This was
because the
good.
connector inside.
It wasn't, you know,
It uses the USB 3
Oh, it was,
The
sometimes they
yeah,
know the wrong part,
Yeah.
they wonder to.
the is worn out and I can't charge it, it won't
Yeah, I
charge
had a discussion
anymore.
today.
It was sitting on there, and it
You know,
doesn't
it
work.
probably takes a couple of
Well,
years.
now
to
it's,
get
I had to take it all out today.
That's terrible.
So I don't have my
Yeah,
battery
they will
back.
take some time.
But you know,
And then-
this has been going on.
Let it go back to.
And then the comprehensive plan needs to be, because it'll be, about that
Exactly.
time.
Exactly.
one we needed to go on.
In several places. Well,
this is why.
My daddy said, I'm between the.
this is why we don't want to do
All the time.
That was John's fault, I'm gonna make John.
You haven't missed my dad.
Definitely way up.
Rob on the one I had because it was Rob's phone, remember that? Y'all gave me Rob's
It was
phone.
when the Rob got
Yeah,
the
I got it first.
You know,
You know, we were trying to figure it out, did somebody, did you jailbreak your phone?
No, I didn't like it.
I couldn't identify it.
Yeah, but not like, not
Yeah,
please.
he had jailbroken, did something, then reset it, and then all of a sudden something came back and it was doing all kinds of funky things. That was on that Ford.
Yeah, 4 to 12, I jailbreak was done with 4, 3, and 4.
what
And
we're
a
gonna do
little bit
about
of 5,
the
but
whole
after
house,
that,
look
we
at
did
the water
jailbreak.
on the mountain.
Everything's
The
there.
Tractor Association is putting in
Everything's already
a
on.
temporary,
Yeah, one of the nice things I got
Sawmill.
down is that
they've got the
everything
granite sawmill up and
Are
going.
they gonna
They're
put
cut
natural
doors.
siding?
Oh, yeah.
They're gonna
Is it
But I did that with
vinyl
ACT,
siding?
they're gonna have to have the.
Honestly, what'll have to happen
Yeah,
is
with
the next budget
with
season, we'll
8.3.
have to have some
You can do
appropriation
that.
for
And it picks it right up.
redoing the little thing and getting it
You're talking
where
about the
you
little
want
house
it
that
to
It's really kind of cute.
be. So we'll have to get that done. We'll have to have some money in there for programming. She's really good. She has some good ideas about how to do inexpensive.
Amy is very good. I feel like she has not gotten the recognition she deserves.
Amy is a good
I
girl.
need her to step up
I would like to help her at one of her.
Well, I'd like to too, because I think
You need to hook one.
Well,
You get an apple
I've got Sean working on something right now.
I got one.
He helped me today. He was so helpful.
Good.
He went downstairs, he brought her stuff, he brought it up to me quickly. One was a,
Chris, every time somebody wanted to watch something, he handed it out to everybody. I don't know how many people you can be on at one time, but I'll say about half of the.
But on purpose, and
It may,
Everybody's having a hard somebody at the bar uses either my
he was a smoke screen.
what were you saying, the variance?
Comcast.
He found
Xfinity
a
Map or
variance
my
that was
Netflix.
handled by
Yeah.
DCA
They're like, how
back
many
in the
people do you know in
70s.
Aurora, North Carolina? Well, I know one.
That gave.
She made that more.
She knows about 800.
Doug Ellis's fighting with.
So they've actually
does.
got an action?
Them,
Somebody sent the
A variance on the
Netflix
required
sent me one
parking.
thing, asking how many devices I have connected at one time. I'm like,
I mean, he is.
I don't know where all my
This is
devices
a
are.
Town council then.
Send an email.
I
back.
said, okay.
I don't know where my devices are.
And I'm sorry.
So they don't have to have.
I keep it on all
They
parts.
just people use it as
Travel,
a-
they don't have to. I mean, that's all the people really just want to get there.
Yeah, but they
They had, that.
I mean,
You have to prove it.
It's
the fact of the matter, and they can do that, but the problem is that people
It is
have
what
so
it
many
is.
devices.
He wrote me
And as
for
people have more devices, you know, they don't want to block you
We could
from,
find them,
because
the
then people get ticked and go to another country.
1972, 73 ordinance for parking, which were not terribly helpful, but he has them.
Cut the fraud.
You might know that the person doesn't have 400
Shoot
devices.
minutes.
Yeah,
That
now,
was
what they
terrific.
probably will do is do
For
some
one
kind
thing, it just
of
puts some matters to bed.
authentication.
It
sells it right there.
That's not.
It's gonna
There you
make,
go.
This is helpful to the court. They have
Yeah,
Wednesday,
absolutely.
Wednesday.
you know.
This
She had
is-
to, she called me,
This is
she
something
tried to
that-
get on Netflix one night.
That's in stone now.
Keep
And
saying
they're doing,
unauthorized devices. I said, that's
Bill's
because you have too many people logged
Ken
in.
Stewart.
All your buddies are logged in, you need to tell them to get
He's
off.
doing.
Tell somebody to quit watching so you can
Medical
change the password.
Yeah,
That's what we do.
have easily
And then he said, Daniel.
12 devices.
If
You have 4 TVs, 4 iPads.
Then you get rid of
So
half
things
your
are like,
Next
shut
year,
up
we'll do it.
and get on with it.
We did that, we changed the password, we didn't know what really did it. People, Christmas Day didn't have it, and then he
But I'm
put
not
it,
sure.
so they probably gave it to everybody else, so we changed the
Yeah,
password.
see,
so we
he
just
said
got
it shouldn't have done
mirror
what he did.
back down.
People have to not miss anything, so they set all the TVs in their house.
And he was still.
Movies, so if you have to
He
go to the
didn't know.
restroom,
He
you
thought
got
he
to
could
get in
get
the
out of
restroom,
it.
you got one, you got one.
Daniel does not have a gun in business at all.
You can
It's
stop
always
children.
got 6 games, 2 game, 1 fight.
A nine.
Florida's
Daniel
playing
does not
3-0.
have
Top,
much.
bottom
Mine.
third. Really?
My
Florida's
understanding
throwing their number two.
is that it boils down to he just doesn't like.
Bigger one.
I can tell that.
Apparently.
Yeah.
Oh,
Because
yeah,
that-
well, that's a, that's
This
a.
thing, I think.
that role.
Well, that's, yeah.
But he has.
What's that?
Where the team, I mean, they just stand there.
I thought they're there.
Don't even make an
I
effort
found
the
a
other
nice
way.
Chico's jacket.
See, I'm
Just
glad
stand
they
there.
changed that.
Okay,
They should never change it. If you
I
make
mean,
no effort to move,
Just
then it's to
saying.
me,
There's nothing.
yeah, it's a
wrong with
strike.
you.
Well, tell somebody to.
I think they shut, they very
Somebody-
If they hit you with a pitch, and you make no effort to go, it's a strike.
That's bad.
Then if they get pitch and you're in, so you put out, well, you want to stand there and take one for the team.
I have, for that.
So if you make it a strike, you're third strike, you be out. That's what I would.
And then they started wearing all those.
Of course, some of those girls are like,
Okay, now, it's customary to read this. You have yours up to go to Bible. You're going to read off the events that are coming up.
Yeah,
If you can get that up there, that would be appreciated. I'm starting to poop out. I'm sorry, you're fine now. Okay, I'll entertain a motion that we go back into regular session.
So moved.
Okay, is second?
Second.
All right, I'll ask our clerk to call the roll, please.
Aye. Mr. Howard?
Aye.
Mr. Humphries?
Aye.
Mrs. Lowe?
Aye.
Mayor Morgan?
Aye, thank you. We were in executive session to consider an appointment to the Board of Zoning Appeals. I'll ask our clerk to read the appropriate certification.
Whereas the Council of the Town of Abingdon, Virginia has convened in a closed meeting on this date pursuant to an affirmative recorded vote and in accordance with the provisions set forth in the Virginia Freedom of Information Act. And whereas Section 2.2, 3712D of the Code of Virginia, 1950 as amended, requires a certification by the town council that such closed meeting was conducted in conformity with Virginia law. Now therefore be it resolved that the council of the town of Abingdon hereby certifies that to the best of each member's knowledge, only public business matters lawfully exempted from an open meeting requirement by Virginia law were discussed in closed meeting, to which this certification resolution applies, and only such public business matters as were identified in the motion convening the closed meeting were heard, discussed, or considered by the town council. If you agree, please respond with "I so certify."
I so certify.
I so certify.
I so certify.
I so certify.
And I so certify. Council, does someone wish to make a motion regarding the matter we discussed in the executive session?
Yes, sir. I would like to make a motion that for the Board of Zoning Appeals, that we appoint Mr. Richard Macbeth to that position to replace the expired term of Matt Bundy.
I'll second that, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, we have a motion and second to appoint Mr. Richard Macbeth to the position of...
It wasn't Matt Bundy, it was Scott Wilson.
Okay.
Yeah, it's incorrectly listed on the agenda.
Okay.
To appoint Mr. Macbeth to the position, the vacancy on the Board of Zoning Appeals. Any discussion, comment? I'll ask our clerk to call the roll, please.
Mrs. Jerry?
Aye.
Mr. Howard?
Aye.
Mr. Humphries?
Aye.
Mrs. Lowe?
Aye.
Mayor Moore?
Aye. Congratulations, sir. All righty. Is there any other, excuse me?
Mr. Mayor, I just have one question for Ms. Rosenbaum. I can't get all the titles together here.
Whatever hat she's...
But the statement of economic interest, I remember last time you had to supply us with any money the town had spent on us on trips and whatever, so
Yes.
are you going to email that to us?
Yes, and
Okay.
actually Kim and I started working on those this afternoon, and I hope to have those to you all in just a day or two.
When you do that, will you do the prior one also?
Yes, you want a copy of the
Please.
last one filed?
Yes,
Yes.
okay.
And the due date, just a reminder, is June the 15th, so.
All right,
Thank you.
okay. I know you're not our mother. That's not a hat that you're having to wear.
I think that was one of the things that was on our list, I think, Mr.
Feel
Mayor.
free to nag us if, and it's not your responsibility to get it in, but feel free to nag us if you don't see this thing showing up in a timely manner. And,
I have a teenager I can name.
all right, very good. Okay, I will note for the record also that we have a lot of events coming up in June, and it's customary to list them. On the 4th, we have the Thursday Jams at the Abingdon Market Pavilion. It is also first Thursday around town, and a lot of our arts venues will be open on that occasion. We encourage you to make the rounds. And it seems to me like the William King Art Ball is also coming up. Saturday night. It's not listed here, but that's happening. Town of Abingdon, on the 9th, we'll have the Solarize Abingdon Community Meeting here at the Town Hall. On the 11th, also the Thursday Jams at the Market Pavilion. The 12th through the 20th, we'll have the Mountains of Music Homecoming event that is occurring all over southwestern Virginia, and it's an impressive line of events that are going to be held, some of which will be in our town. The 13th, we have the Wine Festival at the Heartwood Artisan Center, and on the 13th also, Southern Fried Nuptials will have its opening performance at the Barter Main Stage. The 18th, the Thursday Jams again, the 19th and the 20th. I would note for the record that the Arts Depot will be celebrating its 25th anniversary celebration, which is a remarkable thing. And I want to point out for the record that two things, one of which is that regarding the Arts Depot, when they were provided that venue from the town, initially the artists were the ones who paid to actually have the building renovated and the studios created. It was a very minimal investment on the part of the town that was made in that particular occasion, and they've made major contributions to the life of the community and to the people here in the area. And it is a remarkable thing that they have managed to keep going for 25 years. I encourage you to be there for that celebration. The Hops and Howlers Craft Brew Fest will be on the 20th of June. The Marvelous Wonderettes will have their opening performance, Barter Stage 2, on the 21st. The 25th, we see the Thursday Jams again. June the 26th through July the 1st, The Bike Virginia Tour will be returning to Abingdon, and that was a major production, if I recall. There was a lot of people in town for that. We look forward to having them come back. The Thursday jams at the Abingdon Market Pavilion on July the 2nd. The 4th of July, we will have the holiday, the 3rd of July, it looks like the town offices will be closed for the July 4th celebration. The Red, White, and Beach Party will be held at the Market Pavilion on the 3rd, and July 4th will be the annual celebration at the Coombs Center. And Kevin, I know that you're going to have your work cut out for you that day, as will our Chief of Police. Recall that's usually a lively time, and you fellows hold it together for us. Anything else that I'm leaving out in the way of events and so forth?
I don't know about event, Mr. Mayor, but we have a proclamation for the Arts Depot or something?
Yes,
like that?
I will be there proclaiming.
Very good.
And I encourage y'all to come out and take part of that event. It's going to be a noted occasion.
I just have a question. So the town offices are closed on July the 3rd?
That's the holiday falls on a Saturday, so the offices will be closed on Friday before.
Okay.
I apologize, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, that-
I think they had said it, yeah, so that's my fault.
I was thinking that the holiday was during the week. but it's on the weekend.
Okay. All right. Is there anything else we need to note or observe or proclaim while we're here?
There was a personnel matter that came to my attention through another board that I sit on that we didn't have a chance to discuss tonight in closed session, and Mr. Howard and myself have each spoken with Mr. Kelly about it, and so I would encourage each council member to try to get with Mr. Kelly and discuss it with him sometime soon.
Okay. All right. Anything else?
I think we're raring to go.
All right. You can rear to go and you can rear back. And
The car show was a success.
very good. I'm pleased to hear that.
Just a second?
Yeah, I'll do that.
I didn't really notice the veteran tables, but Bob said he thought he saw one of them. But yeah, they did let them set up
okay.
or whatever. But I think they had over 300 cars. I don't know.
360.
Okay, 360. I asked Ruby to send me the numbers, but I didn't get them.
So do you think there will be a staple for you to have a Main Street show annually?
Probably, yeah. I think they'll do
And
it.
maybe some
They'd like to do it twice
volunteers.
a year, but I'm telling you, no, don't push your luck,
The town was.
December, that was December. They won't blow
And the merchants.
But they were really, really busy. Of course, Necessities was open till 7, and that's her normal closing time. But Anthony was real busy.
And I presume the restaurants benefited as well.
I think, yeah, I saw people on the porch of the Pepper Mill,
All right.
and everybody else was really busy too. So
All right. Well, very good. I'm glad to hear that came off well.
we just need to get a few more of their details taken care of ahead of time.
This is a learning process,
Yes, it is.
and it is that. Okay, anybody else? Thank you. We are adjourned.
All right, we'll verify.